we found groups from this particular group of people, this 5.5 million people in those benefit programs.
They found millions of illegal voters and illegal people collecting Social Security checks. Well, arrest them. You notice that they said they've referred them for prosecution. Does anyone? It's their Justice Department. It's Pam Bondi, who is a right-wing fruitcake, who has said over and over again that there are illegal alien voters in Florida. So they gave it to her, and she has arrested none.
No.
Zero.
Hey, it's Jordan. I am in Flint, Michigan, East Palestine, Ohio, Tumwa, Iowa. Please support the only independent outlet on the ground covering what the corporate media covers up.
The latest executive order is what prompted me to reach out to you. As soon as I read it, you are the first person that I thought of, and I knew that you would have some insights. The executive order came out late last week. It included, it's probably one of the most vast assaults on what I would consider open voting for U.S. citizens in the United States right now. And I know it included things like, every vote to be counted on the same day. And we could talk about who that can impact and why that can repress hundreds of thousands of votes. It included voter rolls being sent to Elon Musk and Doge directly from states. It also included ID laws that are just absolutely crazy. So one of the first questions I would have for you is, what are some of the things that, let's just start out with the voter ID laws that are included in this before we get into the states' rights issues. And I know ID laws are some of the things you've tracked. You've tracked voter rolls too. You've tracked mail-in ballots. So all of this kind of goes into the reporting that you've done over the last several years.
Yes, and indeed, I should mention that. Okay, so if you go to my website, to gregpalast.com, you'll see an article. Trump orders states to open their voter files to Elon Musk, and that his executive order of about 10 days ago, which I describe in detail at gregpalast.com, is going to cost no less than 21 million votes. Now, understand, as you mentioned, I'm a reporter, but I'm also, my other day job was as an investigator on as a forensic economist for the Justice Department, NAACP, ACLU, Rainbow Push, and others. And so some of these figures I'm going to give you are what I take into federal court. These are no BS numbers. Now, here's the deal. The number one horror show in this executive order is the requirement that you prove you're a citizen in order to register or re-register. Now, you say, well, big deal. Only citizens should vote. Absolutely. Except we're not the Soviet Union. We're not China. We don't have citizenship cards. And in fact, as the Brennan Center for Justice out of NYU Law School notes, there are at least 21 million people in America who don't have access to proof of citizenship. What is proof of citizenship? Your driver's license? No bueno. Your military ID? No bueno. Okay? The two major documents that prove you're a citizen are a passport and the original, no copies, please, birth certificate. Original birth certificate. Do you know where your mommy put your original birth certificate, kiddo? 40 years ago? And you say, well, this doesn't affect me. I'm already registered. No, it's if you re-register. 31 million Americans register or re-register, mostly re-register each year. If you move your county, you have to re-register. You better have your citizenship papers. The second one is a passport. Now, why a passport? Why they want you to produce a passport? Well, here's an interesting fact. Only half of white Americans have passports. And only 1 in 3 black voters has a passport. 1 in 3. So when they ask for your citizenship, and by the way, I do a lot of work with tribal communities in America. And where's your citizenship papers? I know because you were here before citizenship, you don't necessarily have those papers. So understand what it takes. Like I say, at least 21 million people will never be able to register or re-register. And believe me, the process, and also think about it. They say, well, go get a copy of your original birth certificate, not a copy, get a certified copy or the original. And, if that's what you need to vote. So in other words, white people, half of them will have a passport, only 1 in 3 black people. So they have to go run out and get their citizenship papers. Now, this was tried
too.
Yeah. And let me tell you, we've tried this once before. So I'm not kidding about what's going to happen, because in 2016, Chris Kobach, who came up with this idea, by the way, of citizenship papers. That is from a guy named Chris Kobach, Republican Secretary of State in 16, and in Kansas. Now he's the state attorney general. He imposed a law. He imposed a form that required you to show citizenship in order to register to vote in Kansas. As a result, 36,000 people, mostly students, and by the way, a lot of African-American officers at the Air Force Base in Lawrence, Kansas, could not vote. 36,000 people in Kansas lost their vote in 2016.
That's an enormous amount of the population.
Well, dig this. Here's the big part. If they weren't citizens, then, hey, don't vote in our elections. In fact, if you vote in our elections, I hope you get arrested. And you will. Chris Kobach went into a federal court and said, of the 36,000 people blocked from voting, he said not one, and I want to repeat, zero, not one of the 36,000, he said was an illegal alien voter, not one. And he said, but that's okay because we're maintaining the integrity of the system. How is the integrity of the system saved if you're knocking off 36,000 people? And it's not just any people. It's bluish people. That is students and voters of color. And, whose ballot is blue. They know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. And that is just the citizenship requirement. And by the way, original birth certificate, ladies if you took your husband's name, bad move if you want to vote, because doesn't have your legal last name on your birth certificate. No, your marriage license is not proof of citizenship. It's not proof of nothing. Or
if you live with somebody,
sometimes not even proof of marriage.
Right. And the rent's not in your name. Let's say you're living with your boyfriend. You're not on the lease. All the bills is in someone else's name because you were roommates.
69 million women have taken on their husband's name. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, the other thing is we also, again, military ID. So you're talking hundreds of thousands of voters, millions of voters at risk. And then there's other things in there, as I mentioned. Elon Musk is put in there by name. When I say by name, they call them that all the states that the federal government requires states to open their voter files to the Doge administrator. Now, what is the name of the Doge administrator? It's Elon Musk. And I haven't seen any paper report this. The Doge administrator is Elon Musk. Why does he need the voter files? What does that have to do with government efficiency? It is a database guy who's going to get all our private voter files.
69 million women who took their husbands' names, as you had just mentioned. Military ID is not proof of citizenship, but thanks for your service. I love that aside. A driver's license is not proof of citizenship, except for where real ID is implemented. And I know we could talk about...
And more than that, actually, I should note, only 5, if it has to be both a real ID, it has to be in one of the 5 states, and I can't name them offhand. 5 states allow you to claim citizenship on your driver's license. But if it's not on your driver's license, real ID or not, you ain't going to that voting booth. And you know what? Here's the thing. Where are these illegal aliens? I mean, I've been voting for decades, and I've never seen a spaceship come down. I've been on the Canadian border. I've never seen a moose break into voting station. I don't find people swimming the Rio Grande to vote for our school board. Because, by the way, if you get caught and you are an alien, legal or otherwise, it's 10 years in a federal can, and then you get deported automatically forever. So who is going to do that? The answer is no one, because you know what? Trump and his Heritage Foundation minions have said that there are 3 to 5 million illegal alien voters that the Democratic Party is registered to vote. And I said 3 to 5 million. Well, that's interesting because if you register to vote, you have your name and address and other details. You go out to vote, you ask for your mail. So it's very easy to find these people. So I said, since you have 3 million people who are registered illegal, could you give me the names of 3, not 3 million, just give me the names of 3. They cannot find them. Now in Florida, that's the other thing that's in this bill. In this bill, we have a provision that secretaries of state, these are these political hacks who run our elections in various states, like a guy named Brad Raffensperger, that's really his name, Perger, of Georgia. What they are asking for, and they get in this executive order, is the right to access the Department of Homeland Security's immigration files.
Mm-hmm.
And what they're looking for, they say, oh, if we get the immigration files, we can find all those people who've been ordered to be deported and see if they're on the voter rolls. Well, this was tried once before. When Rick Scott was governor of Florida, he forced the Obama administration, which said, we don't want to do this, you're going to get wrong names. He got the what's called the save files on the Department of Homeland Security, and they knocked off 179,000 voters in Florida on the grounds, supposedly, 172,000. Let me get the number right. 172,000 voters knocked off in Florida illegally for being illegal voters. And then they said, well, that's no problem. All you have to do is get your vote back, is go into federal court and prove that you are an American citizen, you are who you are. So what they did was they got these files from the feds that said, we deported a guy named Jose Hernandez. So then they look through the voter rolls of Florida and find 6 guys named Jose Hernandez. And they say, oh, well, obviously that's Jose Hernandez who's been deported. These are illegal aliens. They say, no problem. Just go take a day off from work, go into federal court and prove you are who you are. So there were a lot of voters got their names back, but here's how many illegal aliens out of 172,000. There were exactly 1 out of 172,000 who happened to be a Republican from Austria. And no, not Arnold or Adolf. but I'm not kidding, 1. And that's it. But they were very sharp because they ended up with tens of thousands of legal voters, Hispanic voters especially, who were removed from the voter rolls.
And I don't know if you've seen this, but it was at that Republican town hall in Wisconsin where Elon Musk was giving out $1 million to folks to sign his promissory to vote, in the Supreme Court race
Tuesday,
the special election. And Antonio Garcia, the founder and CEO of Chicago-based equity firm Valor Equity, this dude's a billionaire too, $16 billion in gross assets, $2.2 billion in net worth, is talking about some little research he did on the potentiality of voter fraud. And it really reminded me of some of the work you've done. And I know that there's a lot of this that you can debunk. So I would love for you to hear this clip and we can circle back, because I think coupled with this executive order, of course, is going to be the gaslighting and the propaganda that comes along with it to push this narrative even further that they've been pushing for the last decade. So if you could play that for us really quickly, Colin.
This is worth just reiterating. It's not people sometimes think that under the Biden administration that he was simply asleep at the switch. He wasn't asleep. No. They weren't asleep at the switch. It was a massive, large-scale program to import as many illegals as possible, ultimately to change the entire voting map of the United States and disenfranchise the American people and make it a permanent, deep blue, one-party state from which there would be no escape.
Look, if I hadn't seen this myself, I'm not sure I'd have believed it. I went through it myself and mapped it, and Elon is right. This is true. The defaults in the system, from Social Security to all of the benefit programs, have been set to max inclusion, max pay for these people, and minimum collection. That's what's happening. We found 1.3 million of them already on Medicaid, as an example. We've gone through, on every benefit program we went through, we found groups from this particular group of people, this 5.5 million people, in those benefit programs. And then what was really, really disturbing us was why. We're asking ourselves why. Right. And so we actually just took a sample and looked at voter registration records. And we found people here registered to vote. In this population, yes.
And who did vote?
And we found some by sampling that actually did vote. And we have referred them to prosecution at the Homeland Security Investigation Service.
Yeah.
Already. That is already happening right now.
So that's
Okay, I would laugh, except it's tragic.
Yeah.
All right, first of all, they found millions of illegal voters and illegal people collecting Social Security checks. Well, arrest them. You notice that they said they've referred them for prosecution.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone? It's their Justice Department. It's Pam Bondi, who is a right-wing fruitcake who has said over and over again that there are illegal alien voters in Florida. So they gave it to her, and she has arrested none, zero, because they don't exist. And if they're in Social Security on the voter rolls, you got their names, addresses, all your contact information. You have Kash Patel in charge of the FBI. How come these agents aren't out there handcuffing people, arresting them, parading them, the perp wop in front of the camera? Illegal voters also collecting Social Security. It is complete baloney from top to bottom. It's not like there's, the New York Times does these wonderful editorials of saying, illegal alien voting is exaggerated, or it's there's not a lot of it. You know what? Screw you, Times reporters. This is a Guardian reporter saying we've investigated this fairly well. It's not that there's not a lot. There are none. Okay? None. I've asked these guys formally, and I will now, because remember, Musk is he's now a part of the federal government. I will be issuing a Freedom of Information Act request today to say, give me the names of those illegal voters, those illegal aliens registered to vote that you said have voted and are collecting Social Security checks and Medicare. Please, you will have to send them to me. And believe me, I've asked all these right-wing guys and the Heritage Foundation, all these guys that make the claims, and I've talked to them, and I've talked to Chris Kobach, who's behind this whole game, that he's found all these illegal alien voters. Would you give me their name and address, please? That's all I'm asking. I'll make a citizen's arrest. I'll go there with my cameras from BBC television. Let's go get the bad guys. I'm not afraid of illegal voting. But I'll tell you one thing. Knocking off legal voters by the hundreds of thousands, that's the threat to our democracy.